Hi, and welcome to From First Kiss to Wedded Bliss. My name is Marcy Sullivan, and joining me today is Ron Cool. Ron is the husband of Rachel and the father of three. He's got a heart for strengthening families of faith, and he is active with his men's ministry as a director, and he's passionate about leading men's ministry, encouraging men and their spiritual journeys, both inside and beyond the walls of the church. In fact, Ron has a couple of podcasts, one with his wife, which I've enjoyed listening to. And can you tell us the name of that again?
Yeah. Abundantly Expectant Marriage.
Very good. Yes, I'm abundantly expectant. I love that. Now, since I have been listening to your podcast, I know you two met at Starbucks.
Yes.
And so it started as a working relationship, which grew into something.
Yes.
How did you know Rachel was the one?
Oh my gosh. So, well, one, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. This is the funniest story ever now. Now it's the funniest story. When she came for an interview, I got a phone call from my boss that said, "Hey, this girl wants to be a manager. We're going to send her to you." And he was at a hiring fair. So in my brain, she got interviewed, right?
Yeah.
Because they're at a hiring fair.
Makes
Well,
sense.
she came in. Yeah, she came in. I said, "Here's your schedule. See you next week." That was her interview.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the second she left, I called a really good friend of mine and I said, "The most beautiful woman on the planet works for me."
That's
So
really sweet.
I never thought anything would come of it. We worked together for 5 years and I was training her to be a manager and she was leaving our district where I wasn't going to see her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's a weird feeling. Like I'm already missing her. And it was like the last day. And I was like, what do I do? So she was walking behind me at work and I just turned around, grabbed her and kissed her. And she just looked at me. I go, "I'm either getting fired or we're getting married." That was my statement. And she goes, "Well, you're not getting fired." I was like, awesome. So that's how we met. And then our first date, since we kind of already knew each other, kind of went into like, what do you want out of life conversation. Like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to put on the face of dating because like we worked together for
Mm-hmm.
5 years. So
Right.
she saw all the goods and bads. I saw her goods and bads. Um, and it was about, okay, what do you want out of life? Do you want kids? Okay, great. Like that was our conversation. And I remember when we were on our date, I said, okay, we can talk about anything but work.
Mm-hmm.
We can't talk about work. I just want to see, what we have here. And, it was a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're a risk taker, maybe.
Maybe a little
A
bit,
little.
a little bit.
Definitely got the entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Correct.
Now, you talked about some important things that I think all couples should talk about. It's amazing how many people just fall in love and think everything's going to turn out. They don't
Right.
really consider, do you even want children? That's so important to talk about those major things. Did you guys have any premarital counseling before you got married?
Not at all. Not at
Okay.
all. I wish we would have, but we did not.
Uh-huh. Right. I definitely recommend that. But it sounds like you did a lot of that work on your own, just discussing all the important things and seeing
Yes.
if you were aligned in that.
Yes. Yeah. We wanted to make sure, I just wanted to make sure that what she wanted out of life is what I could provide. And then
Mm.
likewise, I wanted to know if that's something I even wanted to go down that road. Like we
Mhm.
talked about everything, but kids just happened to be a part of it.
Yes. Now that just perked up my ears because I was just speaking with someone recently. There were a lot of things in the relationship. They'd been together for a while, not married yet,
Yeah.
but there were so many things she wanted differently.
Yeah.
And I had to tell her, if you think you're going to change him in the marriage, it's not going to happen. He's going to feel like he's never good enough for you. And you're just going to be so discouraged trying to make him your project. And that doesn't work for either person. So so it's good
Not
to
at
have
all.
realistic, yeah, expectations.
Yeah. 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 And, again, since we worked together, we knew we could do that, and it's funny because, her part of the story is she went home and told her mom that her new boss was hot. So it was kind of cool because I've never been the one that said like love at first sight. I never believed in that until her. Like
Oh,
I knew. There was like I remember as we were dating, I was like, you're the only person I'm supposed to be with.
that's beautiful. So, what advice would you give to couples that are considering marriage?
Talk about what you need to be happy. It's not your partner's responsibility to make you happy. So that's
Hmm.
number one. Number
Hmm.
two, read the five love languages book together. Like,
Hmm.
don't rush through it. Like, this was a part of our story later. She was trying to show me love, how she received it, and I was trying to show her love, how I receive it. Yet, since God is hilarious, they were very opposite of each other. So
Hmm.
we were both feeling kind of empty, but feeling like we were giving a lot, right? And that's part of our story where we had to like relearn like how to show each other love.
Yeah.
So
Well,
start there, like start
okay.
there.
Love languages. Yeah.
Yeah. And then be open and honest because you're a team. And
Hmm.
I think most guys were wired to win the fight, win the argument, win the whatever. And what you're doing is you're teaching your wife to just shut down and stop talking to you. That's what you're teaching her. So understand you're not in the fight to win it. You're in the fight to have a conversation and come together to figure it out.
Now, have you heard this expression before? The saying is, you can be right or you can be happy.
Yes.
Someone else changed it and said, you can be right or you can be holy.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that both thoughts are really good to have in
Yeah.
mind when you're talking about winning the fight. No, it's not about that. Not about being
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
It's not. But that's how I was approaching fights. I needed to win.
Yes. Yes. I get that. I think that is not just a man thing. I think that can be a woman thing too. To be
Yes.
just that competitive nature and to have the
100%.
last word.
Yes. Yeah. She always jokes that she's the boss now. And I mean, she's the boss, but I was the boss at work, but she's the boss at home.
So, how long have you guys been married now?
It's going to be 16 years this year.
Congratulations. That's terrific.
Thank you.
Now, when did problems start to arise? Because I think in your testimony it wasn't smooth sailing from beginning to end. It's just,
No, about 7 years into the marriage, I was starting this entrepreneurial journey and it was fun,
mm,
because I was getting paid to do what I loved to do. And she was stay-at-home mom and my office was in the basement. So I would go downstairs at like 6 in the morning and I'd work till midnight, like every day. I was making a ton of money. I figured everyone was happy because I was happy.
right,
And then out of nowhere, like, because again, I taught my wife not to express her feelings because I would take it personal. So she just bottled it up. And out of nowhere, like my marriage was over. And I was like, what just happened? Like,
wow.
what are you talking
Mhm.
about? And, so we had to really understand, is this something we want? And we just took it to God. We're like, okay, Lord, like, we're just going to give this to you. And he told me to shut the company down.
Mm,
So I had like 40 people working for me, went
mhm.
downstairs, found them all a new place to work because
Wow.
they all meant a lot to me because they helped me get to where I was. I came upstairs and I said, shut the company down. We're going to work on the marriage,
Mm,
however long that takes. And we had to really understand our priorities were messed up. And Rachel and I have spoken at Focus on the Family around this as well. But my priorities were work, 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 and then her, but her was what I wanted from her, right? And then maybe the kids, maybe. Hers were the kids, 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 her, and I was somewhere there, right?
yeah.
So we had to really work at changing our priorities to God's first, then our spouse is next, because the best thing you can give your kids is a healthy marriage because
Hmm.
they're looking at your marriage and they're looking at their future. So if you have daughters like I do, like if you as the man, the husband, are screaming at your wife or not showing her any attention, you're literally building the future for your daughter. And
Hmm.
that was not going to happen. So, we spent a year and a half on that. just that. And
Mhm.
God was so good at just providing. And we worked so hard at just giving each other the marriage and the partner that we both wanted at the beginning, right? And then
Yes.
more importantly, like we talk about, our kids have different parents, right? So we have 3 kids. Our youngest son, since God's also hilarious, he likes to, yeah, I'm a slow learner sometimes.
Mhm.
I need to like be a part of it to understand. So during this time frame, at the end of it, my wife was offered a kids ministry director at church that was full time. So she became the person that left and went to work and came home. And I was the person that I was the homemaker, even though I was working from home, right? At that point. And I remember it was summer. It was my first summer as a stay-at-home dad. And I called her and I was like, how do you do anything? And she goes,
Right.
what do you mean? I go, they wake up, they want food. 2 hours later, they want food. Then it's lunchtime. Then it's snack time. Then I got to do dinner. I haven't done laundry. I haven't cleaned the house. I haven't done any work. Right.
Right.
And so then she's laughing. But then on her side, she had to drive an hour because we live out in the country. So she had to drive an hour and then drive home. The last thing she wanted to do is everybody get dumped on her like she would do to me because she needed a break. So I would try to protect that. But we both learned the other side
Mhm.
of everything
Mhm.
where we couldn't have normally done that if we didn't have that opportunity.
Mhm.
So God put us in places where we could grow and become the people that we needed to be. But
Yeah.
our kids are totally different. Like my middle daughter's a prayer warrior. I don't even know where she got it from. She gives Bibles to her friends. Like that stuff just didn't happen. My youngest son, he sings worship songs and he knows 5 or 6 of them in a row. And it's like, wow, like God was showing me like they do what they see, not what you tell them. And that was something that I had to learn. But I think for most men, my goal now is to get them to understand like you can't put your identity and everything into work because it's not that important.
Mhm.
It's really not that important.
Yes. Yes. That's great that you learned those lessons earlier in your marriage. Now they're bearing fruit. Some of the issues where you thought you were doing your job, you were making the money, bringing home the paycheck. And at the same time, there were unmet needs and desires in Rachel's life, but she didn't feel she could express them because that didn't go over well when she tried to with you. I'm guessing that made you kind of feel like I'm failing, and no man wants
Yeah,
to hear that, right?
right.
So instead of saying anything, she just let it build up until it's like I'm done. And that got your
Yeah.
attention, I guess, when she said I wanted, did she say I want a divorce or did she just say,
No, we never said those words,
okay.
but we were like seconds away from it. We had to make some crazy choices. And she finally was like, I'm just not happy. And I was like, why wouldn't you tell me that? She goes, you wouldn't have listened. And
Ah,
she's right, 100% right. So that is something we work with a lot of guys now and married couples. And, my goal is to help guys not be stupid. That's how I explain it to them because that gets their attention. Right. But yeah, I knew I've never fought for anything harder
mhm.
than my marriage. And I knew I couldn't, I couldn't not work at it.
All right. So I think that answers my question. My next one was, did you ever feel like giving up? And it sounds like, no, you just dug in your heels and worked all the harder. Or did you ever
Yeah.
have that point where you're like, I don't know if I can do this?
I think we both had that.
Okay.
So I don't want to say it was all sunshine and rainbows because it wasn't. It was a lot of hard work. And there was a lot of times that we had to decide if it was worth it. I am so sorry. We had to decide if it was worth it. And that's one of those things where that's a daily choice.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little plaque because Hobby Lobby's our friend.
Ah,
We have a little plaque over our bed that says, I choose you and I choose you over and over again. And every day we also have a plaque on the other side of the wall that says God stepped in. If God didn't step in, we wouldn't be together. And if we didn't choose the hard, this is what I tell guys. especially if they have kids. If you're at the crossroads of hard, meaning divorce or not, or work on your marriage, they're both hard decisions. And the enemy is going to try to convince you the divorce is the easier decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is what I tell guys that are in this situation where, okay, it's hard to work on your marriage. Yes.
Yes.
But it's also hard to watch your wife and your kids be raised by somebody else. And that's going to be a later hard
Mm-hmm.
forever. So
Right.
which hard do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
But this is also important. If both parties, meaning the wife and the husband, are not working hard at it the same way, and you have to forgive, just like Jesus says, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that you have to forgive in your brain every time you replay something. It's not necessarily you saying I forgive you every single time. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that's in your brain that you're like, no, I've already forgiven that. I moved on, right?
Right.
And however many times that is, you have to do it. But you have to put down the who's right, who's wrong. You have to
Mm-hmm.
put down all of those pieces, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have to be able to work on it and
Mm-hmm.
love each other
Mm-hmm.
and really study. So I prayed a lot on just for God to make me a good student of my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and when we were learning the love languages, I was frustrated because I was just like, I just want to read yours. I don't want to read them, because we would read the book once a week together on a Wednesday night. It was
Uh-huh.
part of our date night, and we would just read one chapter and talk about it.
Yeah.
And what I've learned, because my wife has a degree in sociology and psychology. She's super smart. I'm more street smart. So she can like quote the Bible like left and right. I'm not that guy, right? So the enemy also tricked me as not needing to be the spiritual leader
Mm-hmm.
that way, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I had to like really step up and start praying for the family and getting into that role. And I had to I apologized to my kids and to her at the dinner table and said, this is what I'm going to start doing. And it's probably going to be bad because I've never done it before, and then God put me in crazy situations of leading a men's ministry, which I never thought I would do, but I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that you humbled yourself. That's basically what you're saying. You humbled yourself to say that, hey, I might not be good at this, or I might not even be as good as mom at this, but I'm gonna step in and step up and do what I can. That's really great. And
Yeah.
I also heard you saying that forgiveness played a big part in the healing of your marriage and having to just put away the blame. It doesn't matter who did what and all of that. Stop the blame
Yeah.
and then just working it out and showing love every day. And I know a big part of that you said was the love languages for you guys.
Yes.
And yeah, we love Dr. Gary Chapman at our house. He's
Yes.
great. Love languages is wonderful. I think sometimes, and you didn't mention this, but I think personal responsibility in the relationship is super important
Yeah.
because person who's not taking responsibility for themselves and what they're doing in that relationship could read the love languages and say, Ron is not doing this. This is my love language. Why isn't
Yes.
and
Yeah.
instead you should be reading it like, okay, what is Ron's love language? How can I bless him? But sometimes people read marriage books and they look at what the other person is doing instead
One.
of taking what they
No.
can for themselves.
And that is an amazing point, because that's how I would have looked at it. Like
Mm-hmm.
right there. And I think I don't want to stereotype guys versus girls, but I think a lot of guys do that, but I could see a lot of women doing it too. But I think it's more of a self-preservation, because you don't want to point out stuff you're doing wrong,
Yeah.
because this is what my wife told me. She goes, I've worked with you for so long, you hate feedback. And I'm like, you're right, I do. So I had to give her permission to
Mm-hmm.
give me feedback and me shut my mouth and take it and
Yeah.
say nothing after but thank you, right? And then I had to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean I've gotten better at it. Like, she knows I'm working on it, right? But we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
It's like her love language is acts of service. And Mine is physical touch, clearly, like most men, and words of affirmation, right? So for us, I never understood me cleaning something. Like she would clean the house, and I'm like, that's great. It wouldn't
Right.
mean anything, right?
Yeah.
And that was going back to reading that book,
Mhm.
once a week. And what God was actually showing me is what we can communicate on and have good adult conversations.
Right.
Right. And it was something that fed her that she needed that I just never was doing. Like I would go talk to her about stuff since I was in social media, that world. I would talk to her about stuff on TikTok and she's like, I don't care, you know? And I was like, but let's talk about it. She goes, I don't want to. And so we just didn't talk.
Hmm. Yeah, that
So
would be
God
a
gave us something to talk.
quality time thing, which, right?
That's
That
your other
for
love
me,
language.
okay, that would be for me as well. But maybe the part of quality time, I think, is not necessarily just talking, but talking about the thing that the other person is also interested in. And so maybe hearing about the podcast and what you're doing there maybe wasn't that interesting to her. But I think also we have to be able to receive love in all different ways. I mean, yes,
Yes.
it's wonderful when they speak your love language, but can you acknowledge that they were loving in, I don't know what, folding your clothes and putting them away?
Yeah.
Or we got to acknowledge the love where we see it, even if it's not exactly our love language, because that only is going to encourage the other spouse to do it more. Oh, they
Well,
noticed that I did something, and that gratefulness, it
yeah.
just expands.
Well, and the other piece is like we need all five, right? And they change with time.
Right.
Like it's funny because now that she's working, quality time is different for her. Acts of service is different for her. And now like I don't see her as much. So like quality time's meaning more to me than it
Right.
did before.
Yeah.
Um, and words of affirmations kind of I don't care as much, right? But yeah, so that's just part of it.
Right. And another part is, I think, Ron, is if you're being affirmed a lot, maybe you don't feel the need is great. That's
Right.
getting filled. And so there may be other areas that you notice more. And it's funny, every guy does say physical touch is one of their love
Right.
languages.
Right.
So you
Right.
got to ask the guy, are you that way with everybody? I mean, are you patting everybody on the back, giving everybody hugs at church? Or is it just the physical touch of your wife?
Right.
You really,
Right. No, but that's a thing. Like so we do a lot of safeguarding and like we're never alone in the car with another opposite sex person. We don't text opposite sex people. We don't have best friends that are opposite sex because that is never a good thing ever, period, end of story. So
I
we
would
do a
agree
lot of
with that.
safeguarding.
Yes. I don't know if you've ever read, I think the book is called Hedges, that maybe Jerry
No.
Bridges wrote. I could be wrong about that, but he goes through talking about different hedges of protection or boundaries, if you will, like you're
Yeah.
speaking about not being alone with someone of the opposite sex. And I think some of this came from Dr. Billy Graham's
Yeah.
way of behaving around the opposite sex. He was always very careful about that kind of thing to avoid even the appearance of evil, right?
100%.
Yeah. So let me move on with my next question. What advice do you give to men who are winning at work like you seem to be doing,
Yeah.
but failing at home, failing as a husband, father?
You're not winning.
You're not really winning. No.
You're not winning at all. You're sacrificing the wrong thing at the altar. That's what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you get your kids for 18 summers. That's it. That is all you get them for. And then in the future, when you want that relationship because you have the time, you have not built up any equity to have that. And then when your kids move out, your wife's going to be a stranger because you haven't dated her. And if you don't make time to date your wife and do things with your wife, the enemy will put someone in her life that will.
Yes. Mhm.
And so understand it's your responsibility to have God first, your marriage second, your kids third, and everything else last. And that's including career.
Right.
Because if you don't do that, you'll wake up one day and go, what was I doing this for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. End up with a very empty life, right?
Yes, 100%.
Now, what about for women who
Yeah.
they need to know? Sorry, let me just backtrack on that. Okay. What do women need to know if they feel like they can't please their husbands? What do you think?
Oh my gosh. You haven't taken the time to get to know them. Right. And like one of our top episodes on our show is around putting dishes in the dishwasher. Okay. Because I do it wrong. Like do it. I I don't understand there's a certain way of doing that. And she has a very specific way of doing it. And so I would do the dishes and then she would come behind me and do it. And I go, either I'm doing the dishes or you do the dishes, but you're
Right.
frustrating me. And that was my attitude. Instead, I flipped it to, can you just show me how you want this? Just show me. And then once you show me, I'll just do it that way. Because I don't want to do the dishes and then you
Right.
turn around and feel like you have to do them. And
Yeah.
and I see a lot of couples do those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would fold the towels wrong. I didn't know there was a way to fold the towels, right? So I was like, just show me how to do it. Instead of
Uh-huh.
getting frustrated, just show me how to do it. And then I had to speak up with what I wanted. So for the woman that doesn't know how to please their husband, you have to make space to talk about it. So we have a marriage meetup once a week, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a business meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the calendar, we talk about what's going on, we talk about when we're having sex, all of those things. Because the hardest, like for a guy, especially if your love language is physical touch and you want that,
Mm-hmm.
you also don't want to hear no, right? And so if you hear no so many times because people are not in the mood or whatever, or you haven't done anything to lead up to that, then you're going to hear no, and then you're just going to stop asking. And
Mm-hmm.
then that spirals into a bunch of other things. So it's like, no, let's just schedule it and we can still make it romantic. It doesn't mean that's the only time, but now I know when that's going to be. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to wonder, is today or is it tomorrow? Is it next week? Is she in the mood? Like everyone's ready, if you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
so we talk about needs, both sides. But then the one question that we ask is, how can I bless you this week? Like, what can I do for you this week? Because what the other thing I was finding is I was hoping she would do something during that week, or she was hoping I would do something. And it doesn't, here's how I explain it. If she was hoping I would organize the garage
Mm-hmm.
and I clean the whole house because I thought that's what she wanted,
Yeah.
is she going to notice the garage is dirty and messed up or the house got cleaned? She's going to notice what she was hoping didn't get done or got get done. It didn't get done. So now we just tell each other. And
Mm-hmm.
then what's cool about that is since we're not guessing anymore, you've told me on Monday, by next Monday, you wanted something done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I don't do that, you have every right to hold me accountable to that and have a conversation. Excuse me. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other piece that's fun about having this weekly check-in, we can write down little things. Like we have a running note of things that we're going to talk about that we both see. Where then if it's something that I made her upset or she made me upset, I'm just going to write it down and we're not talking about it in the heat of the moment,
Yes.
right? So then I can go, "Hey, this really bothered me when you did this." And it's a different conversation than I can't believe you did that, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yes, it's a
And
difference between like a harsh startup where you're
yeah,
criticizing because you're upset versus that time of non-conflict
yes.
when you've had time to. I don't think anything good happens when you're angry. We're just
No.
not in our right mind.
Well, and by the time that you're about to have a conversation, you can decide if it's even worth having it.
This is true. Yes, not everything is worth making an argument out of, right? The
No.
idea of the marriage meetup, that's something that my husband and I have put into practice for quite a few years now. We recommend
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Having a scheduled time where you're going to talk about the schedule and
Yeah.
what you need, the wins for the week, what was
Yeah.
hard, all of these things. It's really a great time to connect. And like you said, during a time when you're not in the middle of the argument, I do like the way you add onto your list during the week
Yeah.
instead of for us, sometimes we get to it and we're like, oh, I don't know.
No,
We
we have
have,
a reminder on our
hmm
phone, and
hmm
we add it, and it's just called marriage meetup, and we add things and we take
uh-huh,
things off, and we also do it when the kids aren't around,
hmm
and we also don't do it late at night. Like these were all things that we learned because if you're too tired, you're not going to have real conversations. If the kids are around, you're going to get distracted or bugged. But that's also not a date night.
yeah,
Not
right.
a date
Yeah,
night.
that's
You know,
true.
so we do it on Mondays after breakfast. We just have a little quick, you know.
hmm I like that. So that leads us into, and I think that's probably one intentional thing that you do in
Yes,
your marriage that
yes.
keeps it strong. Is there anything else you'd say that you do to keep that marriage strong?
We date. It was funny because we went on our first family vacation. Gosh, 4 years ago, no, 5 years ago, and that was crazy to me. But every time we talked about going on like a real family vacation, one was too young to remember. And I go,
Um,
look, if you're going to wait for the youngest to be old enough to remember everything, the oldest isn't going to even want to go.
that's
So,
what
like,
pictures are for, right?
exactly. So let's just go. But we made a rule where we try to date at least once a month. And then we have one family vacation and one just her and I vacation every year. And that is something that is important. And the other thing is like she loves hiking.
hmm
She loves hiking. She loves outdoors. I do not. I like the beach. So we have to compromise.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we'll go camping and sometimes we'll go to the beach.
Yes.
And it's not like she doesn't like the beach, but
hmm
she'd be happy with like some of our dates are just going to a national park and going on a hike. And she's more than happy with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
So
great.
really understand
Uh,
what's going to fill her bucket. And then if she's getting low or if you're getting low, that's what that marriage meetup is. Say, hey, I'm feeling low.
hmm
Don't blame the person for not filling you up because some of it is like we had to learn like to talk each other's love language
hmm
because it wasn't natural for me.
Right.
I actually look at the people that are married to the exact same, which I think is pretty rare, but I think they have different kind of problems. You know what I mean? But for us to like it's funny, like we'll be walking around shopping and she'll just put her hand on my back. And I would tell her how much that meant to me. So she knew. And then now it's just become a habit for her. It was awkward at first. So you have to communicate when they're doing something that's filling your bucket,
Yes.
not when they're doing something that's not filling your bucket.
That's true. Yes, keep it positive for sure.
Yes.
I
Yes.
like that. So keep on dating and find out what fills their bucket. Those are
Yeah.
great things to end on. If there's anybody who would like to learn more about you, your podcast, your ministry, where do you point them?
NewpathnewYou.com.
All right, excellent. Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you
Likewise.
and look forward to possibly meeting up again and maybe talking to your wife next time.
Absolutely. I think it'd be great.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you. We've got basically 2 minutes left on the thing, and I don't want us to get just abruptly cut off. So I will let you go with that. Is there anything else you wanted to say that I?
No, no, just
Okay.
if you have anything that you want me to promote, send it
Mm,
over my way and I will
all
put it
right.
out on social, or if you do little micro clips, I'd be
Mm,
happy to put it out
yes, I do that. I definitely do. In fact, I'm on Facebook if you want to look for Marcy Sullivan Coaching.
there. Okay.
And I put a lot of my material on there. I'm also on YouTube, which I will post this, and I have a Spotify that I will do the just the audio on. So I will definitely send you the link once that comes out, and it'll probably be next week. So, all
Perfect.
right.
Yeah. And just tag me on any of it
Okay.
at Ron Cole Jr. and I will repost it.
Super. I appreciate your support and help on that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.